guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick.
I'm Ian.
Today we're talking about Ghost and whether or not they can become one of the greats of heavy metal. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music weekly playlist that we put together, and also the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we release new episodes. So I guess Ghost isn't that new of a band. They've been around. I think the first album came out back in 2010, I think. But they've really been gaining popularity over the last several years. When did you start listening to them?
I probably saw a YouTube video of theirs, like 2016 maybe, and I was kind of curious, but I didn't go any farther. Probably around 2018 is when I started really listening to them a lot.
And I think it's when you started talking to me about it. Ian's been trying to get me to listen to Ghost for several years. Right. And for one reason or another, I think I listened to maybe one track or two tracks, and just really never really dug more into their music until Impera came out. Was that 2021 is when Impera came out. Impera is a fantastic album. I will say that Impera is kind of a little bit more of a... I wouldn't call anything that Ghost has done poppy. It's definitely more of a mainstream sound, mainstream metal sound than some of their other albums.
I think what it is it's just there's a lot of like 80s hair metal kind of undertones to it that, and the 80s was pop to a degree. So, but it's not, I shouldn't say undertones. There's like a homage element to it, to 80s hair metal or 80s metal in general. But, that's where I think.
So I think that's why Impera has become such a huge album over the last couple of years. Everyone loves the album. I see people post it all the time online about it. But kind of what we're looking at is, 15, 20 years from now, will we get to a point where we'll look back on Ghost and put them in the same category as Metallica and Iron Maiden and a lot of those other great metal bands?
I think it's possible. Probably more so with Iron Maiden, more so than Metallica. Yeah, because Metallica is different. They're kind of in an orbit of their own in terms of their popularity. Yeah, they're like how the Beatles are to rock bands. They're that for metal bands.
Oh yeah, because I think when you look at metal and you think of like the origins of metal, you think of, at least me personally, I think of Black Sabbath,
early Deep Purple for heavy metal, but and really mainstream metal and the elements of thrash would be Metallica for sure.
But I think there's two things that really separate Ghost from a lot of the other metal bands, that have come out over the last decade or two, and that is, first off, Tobias Forge. I think he's a big personality. He can be a big personality. If you watch his interviews online, he seems like a great guy. Mm-hmm. He seems like somebody that would be really fun to sit down and talk music with. I will say that, like, the first time I saw him do an interview, he reminded me of, like, a Sunday school teacher.
Which, if you're familiar with Ghost,
it's the complete opposite on stage.
Well, I think the Papa Emeritus personas that he's had, or the Cardinal, he's had several. But I think those personas give him kind of that same freedom that Alice Cooper has, where he can be someone on stage and then someone, be himself off stage. He doesn't have to carry all that baggage with him, and he can, be a real person in real life and then still have his stage persona. I think that helps a lot. Yeah.
And I think another thing that really kind of separates them is how awesome their albums look.
Oh, the album cover artwork is fantastic. I mean,
all their albums have, this is, I just got Devotion and Ceremony, their live album. I mean, the artwork on this thing looks sweet. And Impera was the same way. Mm-hmm. All their albums look awesome, have great artwork. Like I said, and I'm not trying to say that other metal bands don't have great artwork also. It's just the whole package that you get with those.
But that's kind of where I was kind of going with the Iron Maiden reference too, in terms of because Iron Maiden album covers are, I think, some of the greatest album covers of all time. Some of them, and I think that it's kind of playing in that more of that arena than it is the Metallica arena.
Gotcha.
Metallica is more. It's hard to describe because they're metal. There's no question that they're a metal band. They're a thrash metal band initially, but there's a certain art rock element to them. in the way that they present themselves.
Okay.
Not so much in what they produce, because
Gotcha,
what they
okay.
produce is
Definitely.
straightforward thrash or heavy metal, hard rock. But there's just, like I said, it's like the Beatles. They're not. If you look at Beatles music, it's simplistic, but it's the Beatles. It doesn't.
Yeah.
That's the point. Same with Metallica. You know, they're just not better, but they're elevated as a result of what they have done.
Yeah. I think another thing that Ghost really has going for them as a band is the fact that, you know, I see a lot of metal bands over the last several years. I guess I should say that I'm not a huge metal fan myself, but I have seen a lot of metal bands that have been kind of coming up over the last several years that seem to really want to just kind of create or recreate the same music album after album. And that's one thing Ghost has really stayed away from. Right. Every album has its own different sound.
Even song to song sometimes on an album, because you'll have this, you know, almost
Imperial is a great,
you'll have like a thrashy kind of metal song and then kind of a poppy rock song. You know, so there's a blend even within the albums that I think give them a uniqueness. And again, that's what separates them necessarily from
some of the other
ones and puts them more in a different metal category. Yeah. But one that could have longevity for sure.
I think something else that can play into the potential longevity of this band is the fact that it's not really a band. It's one individual and then a bunch of backing musicians.
Right.
So there's a lot of times you get like this inner struggle within bands that over a 10, 15, 20 year period really kind of end up breaking up the band or changing the band musically.
Or causing them to have to go to therapy and make a big documentary about it.
Yeah, very, very true. But with Ghost, that's not really the case, because it's Tobias Forge and then a bunch of unknown studio musicians.
Right. Who could very well be like very famous musicians, just they're like, nameless on the albums.
Like Dave Grohl.
Like Dave Grohl, right.
Yeah.
Which in a sense is kind of clever, because, you'll never have to worry about, the guitar player wants to leave. We've had to audition 5 new guitar players in the last 10 years. That kind of thing.
And really, if you go to shows year after year to go see Ghost, and they do change guitarists, you'd never know. Yeah. Because you don't even know what they look like. Yeah. So.
Well, I think he's retiring the current Papa Emeritus this year, too. So there'll be either a new Cardinal or a new Papa Emeritus 5, I think it would be.
There'll be a new one for the next album.
So I mean, there's still variations, but it's still just one person kind of being the guiding force through. Yeah.
So I think that really kind of helps. So I guess it's kind of like a solo project, if you really want to call it that, because Tobias Forge is the only member of the band. Right. Legally, he's the only member, because there was a big lawsuit several years ago where some of the nameless ghouls sued him over not being paid enough for rights. Well,
they're being paid as session musicians rather than actual band members.
And Tobias Forge won that lawsuit
because
they are just session musicians.
Yeah. He does tend to. I notice he does tend to work with some of the same people in terms of writing music, though.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's a good thing, because you always run the risk of getting too much inside your own head. Yeah. If you're the only person having any control over anything, George Lucas with Star Wars, Dave Gilmour with Pink Floyd. Yeah. They're from a musical perspective. Ian Anderson with Jethro Tull. Sometimes that could be a detriment to it as well. But
so far it's worked for him.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, he does have other people who write songs with him. So. Yeah. There's other people providing ideas and giving, input that helps, I think, a lot, too.
Well, that's all we got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop us a comment down below. Let us know what you guys think. Do you guys think that Ghost can have that longevity to, like I said, one day become one of those kind of greats of metal? Because
up there with like Iron Maiden.
Yeah, definitely. But let us know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.